Did you know that in the final stages of the Second World War, when each battle was critical for the Allies as they inched their way to victory, Hitler's army was fooled by a group of American actors, fashion designers and artists who literally tricked the German army into defeat. It was a special elite force with a difference, created not to kill but to help with the liberation of mainland Europe, by fooling the German High Command into thinking that there were Allied troops where there were none. This elite group was hidden from history for almost 50 years, but now their secret is out. These men were not trained to fight, but trained in acting and other creative skills. And their job? Well, that was to fool Hitler and the German High Command. Just after the Allies had completed the June 1944 D-Day landings, they were slowly pushing through occupied Europe. It was hard going. The Germans had built up strong defences in villages and even below ground. Brute force was one way to move forward, but it brought it a heavy cost in terms of Allied lives. The Allies needed to be clever, and their inspiration? Well, that came from a tactic that the British had used in Africa during the Battle of El Alamein. They used dummy tanks and other props along with fake radio signals to make the enemy believe that the Allied army was going to attack at a different location and time. It drew the enemy troops away from the real soldiers and gave them an advantage which helped them win each battle. In 1944, a special American unit was created, the 23rd Headquarters Special Troop, or as they became more commonly known, the Ghost Army. Their job was to take the tactics used by the British a stage further in order to confuse the Germans in Europe with a range of deception techniques. Their most famous tactic was the use of an inflatable tank, or a truck covered in a canvas shell to resemble a tank. They would move into an area where they wanted a real Allied unit to be positioned, and would set up their equipment with their fake vehicles to pretend that a unit was stationed there. The use of these fake tanks was particularly useful during the Second World War, as aerial reconnaissance photographs of the time were not high enough quality to be able to tell the difference between real and inflatable tanks, giving the Allies a very good military deception tactic. The 1,100 men would stage large events or performances wearing other units' uniforms, painting different emblems on their fake vehicles, and using fake radio communications pretending to be other Allied units, tricking the Germans into thinking that other units were not where they thought they were. These events were also used to trick the Germans into believing that the Allies had more tanks and equipment than they actually did. They were often used on a loop or a stretch of road to give the impression of whole armoured convoys, having the same vehicles driving on a loop, so 3 or 4 fake or real tanks seemed like hundreds of real ones. The unit's biggest coup though was at the Battle of the Rhine, where they successfully tricked the whole German army into amassing in a completely wrong place, thus giving the Allies the opportunity to cross the river and attack virtually unchallenged. This battle tactic alone would result in saving between 15 and 30,000 Allied lives. The unit was extremely effective at what they did, and critically important in the Allied war victory. They used ingenuity and creativity in their daring exploits, putting themselves in front line of danger with no protection. Unfortunately, their heroism was initially lost to history because their actions were hidden by the Official Secrets Act for over 50 years. However, now their story can be told, as we know some of the men had a key role within the unit. They include famous fashion designer Bill Blass, as well as artist Ellsworth Kelly, Arthur Singer and Art Kane. It wasn't just artists though who took part. There were some engineers, actors and radio operators, 1,100 men in total. These men's actions went on to influence many other similar acts of military deception throughout the years, with the Americans using cardboard cutouts to cover up any military secrets during the Cold War, whilst the Russians placed mock-up tanks and planes on their runways and military bases to trick the American surveillance into believing that the Soviets had a larger army than they actually did. The 23rd Headquarters Special Troop, or the Ghost Army, summed up the war spirit, using their talents and great minds to think of ways to help turn the war in the Allies' favour. Their brave actions and creative minds meant tens of thousands of soldiers were able to return home to their loved ones, and their tactics have changed the way that the military operates to this day.